You know that feeling, right? You're scrolling late at night and you stumble on a story that just gets under your skin, and it stays there. These modern scary stories, the ones you find online, they have this incredible power to terrify us. So today, we're going to pull back the curtain. We're going to dissect the formula and figure out exactly what makes them tick. All right, let's get into it.
I truthfully thought I was going to die. Wow. I mean, that line comes from a story about a kid just cutting through a cornfield. It feels so raw, so real. But what you might not realize is that feeling is the end result of a very carefully constructed machine. So what is it? What makes a simple story like that feel so immediate, so terrifyingly real? Let's break down the blueprint. Okay, so the first, and honestly, maybe the most important ingredient, is the setting. See, these stories, they don't start in some haunted castle or a spooky far-off land. No, they start somewhere you know, somewhere that's supposed to be safe. And here's the thing. The horror almost always kicks off with a single choice, a tiny little transgression. The main character isn't just randomly attacked, they cross a line. They're the one who decides, yeah, I'll take that shortcut through the cornfield. Or, you know that creepy old mansion we always drive past? Let's go explore it. And that one decision, that's what takes them from the world of rules and safety and throws them right into a world of chaos and pure danger.
And just look at where this stuff happens. We're not talking about fantasy worlds here. We're talking about a huge cornfield, the kind you've seen a million times on a road trip. The woods right across the street from your house where you played as a kid. It's even the tree line right next to your own swimming pool. That's the key to the formula. It corrupts the places we're supposed to feel safest, which makes the horror feel like this deeply personal invasion.
So once our character has crossed that line, the story doesn't just hit you with a cheap jump scare. No. The really good ones, they build this slow, creeping dread. It's a slow burn, and they do it by messing with our senses, hinting that something is wrong long before we ever actually see the threat.
That cornfield story is a perfect example of this. It's an absolute masterclass in using sound to build tension until you can't stand it. It starts with just a faint rustle. But then, you realize it's mimicking you. It stops when you stop, and that's the moment your blood runs cold. You know it's not just an animal, it's intelligent. Then it gets louder, closer, and your own imagination is doing all the heavy lifting, picturing something way more terrifying than the story could ever show you.
And it's not just sound either. Take this line from the story about the abandoned mansion. Before the characters see anything, before they find the pentagram, they're hit with this: the smell of death and rot. It's so visceral, right? It just bypasses all your logic and hits you right in the gut, on this primal level. You just know, instinctively, that something is terribly, horribly wrong in that house.
And you see this pattern, this breaking of the rules of the world. It shows up everywhere in these stories. In Ohio, you hear voices luring you from the woods. In the mansion story, a rock you throw is somehow thrown back at you. In another story, a simple phone call diverts someone, rerouting him from a safe place directly into a trap. Each one of these is a little signal that the world is not working the way it's supposed to anymore.
So after all that buildup, after stretching that suspense to its absolute breaking point, the stories finally deliver the payoff. This is the moment the thing you've been dreading finally steps out of the shadows and into the light.
But the reveal isn't always some monster jumping out at you. A lot of the time, it's a discovery, a piece of evidence with horrifying implications. In one story, it's finding a diary entry that proves this whole thing was a cold, calculated plan. In the mansion, it's the white pentagram on the floor, hinting at some kind of ritualistic evil. In the cornfield, it's something terrifyingly simple, just a man waiting on the path, a human predator. And in the Ohio woods, it's a silent figure hiding by the pool, that chilling realization that you're being watched.
So let's look at the antagonists themselves, the faces of fear. Each one is basically designed to tap into a different primal fear we all have. You've got the man with the low and raspy voice. That's your tangible, all-too-real human monster. You've got the two cloaked figures on the staircase. That's the unknown, the supernatural. Then there's the diary, which reveals maybe the most unsettling horror of them all, the evil that can hide behind the innocent face of a child. And finally, the silent watcher in the trees, the ultimate violation of your privacy and your sense of safety.
All right, so we've looked at all the individual pieces, right? The familiar places, that slow burn suspense, and the horrifying reveal. Now, let's put it all together. Let's look at the complete formula. So what is it? What's the actual recipe for a modern nightmare?
What makes these stories so good at getting under our skin, and why are they so ridiculously shareable online?
Okay, here it is, the blueprint. First, you start in a place that's familiar, but also kind of isolated. Step 2, you have your main character break a known rule. That's what gets them into the danger zone. Then you build that dread with a threat you can't see, using things like sound and smell to let the reader's own mind do the scaring. And then, bam, you deliver that horrifying, direct reveal, the man on the path, the pentagram on the floor. And almost every single time, the story ends with a desperate, frantic escape, leaving you, the reader, with that shaky, adrenaline-fueled fear still buzzing in your veins.
But you know, when you really get down to it, I think what makes these stories stick with us so much is that they often point to a very real, very human kind of evil. This quote really says it all. The scariest part of that whole story wasn't some ghost or a monster, it was finding a diary that laid out a detailed plan for a murder. That terrifying picture it paints? It's one of cold, calculated human intention. And let's be honest, that is often way, way scarier than any supernatural creature could ever be.
And all this leaves us with one last big question. For generations, right, we told stories just like these around campfires. Now, they just spread like wildfire on TikTok, Reddit, YouTube, you name it. They're using the exact same primal fears, the same narrative beats, just perfectly adapted for a new medium. So are we just watching the evolution of the urban legend right before our eyes? Are these the ghost stories of the digital age? It's definitely something to think about the next time you find yourself scrolling, alone, in the dark.